Last Jungle Soldier. In 1945, World War II officially came to an end. But deep in the Pacific on a forgotten jungle, choked island, one soldier never stepped out of the war. Or perhaps he simply refused to believe it had never ended. While the world celebrated peace and moved forward into a new era, Hiroo Onoda remained locked in a reality frozen in time, continuing a conflict that history had already closed. What followed was not just a military anomaly, but one of the most haunting and unbelievable true stories of loyalty, isolation, and psychological endurance ever recorded. Born in 1922 in a quiet Japanese village, Onoda grew up in Japan. Unlike the modern world we know today, a nation defined by rigid discipline, intense militaristic ideology, and absolute devotion to the emperor. From childhood he was shaped by an uncompromising belief system where obedience was sacred, surrender was forbidden, and death itself was considered more honorable than retreat. In that world, Hiroo Onoda was not simply raised, he was conditioned to believe that a soldier's duty never ends, even when everything else in the world says it already has. This mindset shaped him completely. As World War II escalated, Japan trained select soldiers for covert guerrilla warfare, special operatives designed to disappear into enemy territory and continue fighting silently long after conventional battles ended. Onoda became one of them. He wasn't trained to fight battles, he was trained to continue a war no matter what. He was sent to Libang Island in the Philippines with a clear mission: disrupt enemy supply lines, carry out guerrilla attacks, and survive independently until Japanese forces returned for him. One strict order was given to him before deployment: never surrender under any circumstances, even if Japan itself seemed to fall. Then came 1945. The atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki changed the world forever. Japan officially surrendered. World War II ended. But Onoda never received that confirmation or refused to accept it. From his perspective, the war was still ongoing. Leaflets were dropped, messages were broadcast, even letters from his family were sent telling him the war was over. But to Onoda, all of it looked like enemy deception, psychological warfare, a trick to break his mission. So he stayed. In the dense jungles of Libang Island, Hiroo Onoda continued his warfare alone. Years turned into decades. He survived by living off the land, bananas, coconut, stolen rice from fields, and occasionally livestock. He adapted completely to jungle warfare, hiding during the day and moving at night. Any civilian presence was treated as enemy activity. Clashes with locals became part of his isolated war. One by one, his companions disappeared. Some surrendered, some were killed. Eventually, he was completely alone. But still, he believed the war was not over. The world moved on. Japan rebuilt itself into a modern, peaceful nation. Generations changed, technology advanced, but Onoda remained trapped in 1945, fighting a war that no longer existed. Authorities tried everything to bring him out. They dropped newspapers, letters, even photos of his family. Loudspeakers were used to announce Japan's surrender. But nothing worked. To him, everything was a lie. By the early 1970s, Onoda had become almost a myth on the island. Some believed he was a ghost, others thought he had died long ago, but the truth was far more unbelievable. Then came a turning point. In 1974, a Japanese explorer named Norio Suzuki set out on a strange personal mission. The rumored soldier still fighting World War II. Against all odds, he succeeded. When Suzuki finally found him in the jungle, Onoda did what he had been trained to do. He aimed his weapon. He still believed the war was active, but Suzuki didn't fight back. Instead, he spoke to him in Japanese and told him the truth. Japan had changed. The war was over. The emperor and people were safe. Onoda refused to accept it. There was only one authority he would believe, the commanding officer who had given him the original order. And that officer was gone. But the Japanese government managed something extraordinary. They located his former commander, now a civilian living a quiet life, and brought him to Lubang Island. In March 1974, after 29 years of isolation, Hiroo Onoda finally stood face to face with the man he had been waiting for. The commander read out the official order. Japan had surrendered. The war was over. His mission was officially terminated. At the moment, the 29-year-long illusion collapsed. Onoda surrendered. He handed over his rifle, his sword, and the ammunition he had preserved for decades. He was 52 years old. He had entered the jungle as a young soldier in his 20s and returned a man who had lived an entire lifetime in a war that no longer existed. When he returned to Japan, he was no longer just a soldier. He was a symbol of extreme loyalty, discipline, and the psychological power of belief. But he also carried deep remorse for lives lost during his years of isolation. Later, he visited the Philippines again and donated funds to help the families affected by his actions, trying to make peace with the past that had shaped him completely. Hiroo Onoda passed away in 2014 at the age of 91, but his story remains one of the most extraordinary cases in modern history. A man who did not lose a war on the battlefield, but lost it against time itself.